Cycling, even through busy city streets, is statistically pretty safe. The numbers, both in real terms and proportionally, of fatalities and serious injuries are thankfully very, very low. But there is one real area of concern in relation to these, and that's HGVs.
Yeah, so much concern, in fact, that the Department for Transport here in the UK is launching a campaign to help improve cycle safety. And they've asked us to help spread the word. And we thought, well, yeah, why not? 18% of all cycling fatalities here in the UK in 2014 were as a result of an incident with an HGV. Yet HGVs represent just 5% of the total vehicles on the road. So clearly something is going on. Do these vehicles actually represent the biggest risk to cyclists out on the road? When you inspect these statistics a little closer, you'll see that the major issue comes from lorries turning left. That's here in the UK, of course. For most of the rest of the world, it'll be turning right. But the principle remains the same. Cyclists that are on the curb side of the vehicle can become trapped, and then tragedy can strike. So what do we actually do about this then? Well, we've been asking some of the people who deal with it on a daily basis, the cycling safety lobby groups. And they campaign on a number of different fronts. So they'd like to see an increased number of segregated cycle lanes, which I guess most of you will be quite familiar with, but which have only really recently started cropping up more and more here in the UK. Then they'd also like to see haulage companies adopting new technology that makes conditions safer for vulnerable road users, but at a much faster rate. But then they also point out the fact that in a number of these collisions, the lorry driver will frequently say that they just don't see the cyclist. But how hard can it be really to check your mirrors, see if there's a cyclist in the danger zone, and then not make the turn? Well, Matt has been doing a bit of work experience to see for himself.
Well, I'm here with Simon, who's the owner and one of the head trainers at SOMAX, one of the UK's largest HGV driver schools, to try and explain. Now, Simon, it's an issue for cyclists in particular, lorries turning left, and it is a big problem for us. How is that perceived by HGV drivers and yourself?
It's tough, you know, we're driving big vehicles and cyclists like to move, and they're quicker than us, certainly in traffic situations. For us, we've just got to keep checking those mirrors all the time.
Why do you think it happens so much?
I think there's lots of factors. I think one of the key things is that the lorries are big. They need more room when they're turning left. So on the approach, lots of lorries will keep slightly to the right because they've got a long wheelbase, otherwise they'll be hitting curbs. So by opening up that space on the left side, you're inviting vehicles, cyclists to come through. So near side observation check is really important to be able to see.
Because I know that looking at the mirrors we've got here, and I've been looking left and right, there's no real blind spots on the inside at all here. You can see riders all the time.
Yeah, I can. The only time when I'm blind to them is when they're immediately behind the vehicle, because I've got a box here, so I can't see immediately behind. So I can only pick them up when they come from outside of that area.
It's a very difficult question to answer, but I'll ask you it nonetheless. What do you think would be something heading towards a solution for this problem?
I think, unfortunately, both rider and driver have one thing in common: they're human beings, and until we can find a human being that is perfect, I think, unfortunately, we're going to continue to have incidents. I mean, technology is helping us a lot. Now we've got better mirrors, there are warning devices that can be used as well, electronic ones which will buzz when anybody is in a close proximity. So technology is helping us, but it still will not replace the driver behind the wheel and the rider behind the bars making the right decision in that moment in time. Every 5 years, a commercial driver has to undergo 35 hours of training. It's called driver CPC. And they can take a variety of courses, but certainly for London, for instance, they have to do a vulnerable road user course, or FORS as it's called. And most companies today will train their drivers in the practical training. So for instance, the vulnerable road user, as well as fuel efficiency.
Well, Simon, from this half an hour I've had it in the cab in the rush hour at Bristol, there's just so much for a HGV driver to process.
Yeah, there is. Do you fancy having a go?
Come on then. I've always wanted to be a trucker. And finally, that dream has come true. Well, Simon, I'm in the cab. I can't say I'm not just a little bit nervous, but on a more serious note, what are the first things that you'd tell a new driver?
Mirrors, observation is critical. You know, it's a big vehicle, L plates everywhere. Everybody's going to try and get past you as quick as possible. You've got to find them. So we've got mirrors here, 3 over that side, 2 over here. And even though we've got a lot, we still need to do lots of observation. Top mirror here, curbside mirror. You're going to be pulling in a lot, deliveries. You need to see how close you are from the curb. Top mirror here eradicates the blind spots, so you've got much wider picture, and we'll show that to you in a minute. This one here, as you can see, will give you really good length. So between the 2 here, you're really eliminating the blind spots on this near side.
Okay, right, I'm just going to use this system of mirrors here. I'm going to keep looking top and bottom in relation to Simon being in my vision 100% of the time. Stationary traffic, as it were, and yes, I can see him all the way through. I can obviously see him at one point without the mirrors, but he was in every single mirror at some point throughout that whole passage.
This could be one of the most dangerous GCN assignments of all time. I've taken every safety precaution. I'm wearing high vis, but essentially I am now going to attempt to motor pace a lorry being driven by Matt Stevens.
And now turn it once more.
Okay, and now
You need to switch on though, first of all. So we put the handbrake back on again. That's it. So you just turn the key.
Here we go. Motor pacing with Matt Stevens, driving a lorry. What could possibly go wrong?
Right, it's really coming up the inside now. Pretty halfway down the vehicle, so I'm just going to ease a little bit.
That left turn now, you can see how
just give it nice and wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you kind of did. I still cut in considerably there, didn't I? Probably spend the same amount of time looking into the mirrors as I am looking ahead. It's quite amazing. Now he's completely disappeared.
Where is he?
I know he's appeared again, just coming up the inside, so give him plenty of room. Still quite tight there, but the inside, whoa, didn't expect that.
Oh, that just feels so wrong. And it's not even the fact that it's being driven by Matt, it just feels wrong being in that position. We survived! So after all of this, what have we actually learned, Matt?
Well, I think from my time in the cab, it's given me a real insight and awareness of the dynamic risk that a driver has to manage out on the open road. And also I'm now acutely aware of what a driver can and can't see. Now I know from the system of mirrors that they've got in place, the comprehensive system of mirrors, there's no blind spot, but also I know that we can't see a cyclist if they're directly behind the lorry. Now there was one particularly interesting situation. We're in really slow moving traffic and a cyclist whizzed up the inside through a very, very narrow gap, which was extremely, well, caught me by surprise and was extremely disconcerting. Although I must hold my hand up and say I have done that a few times myself in the past, but I certainly will consider doing that again in the future, knowing what I know now.
No. Now, what about cyclists generally then? Well, I suppose it's fair to say, isn't it, that there are things that can be done that will make roads safer for us. I think that's a given. But here and now, we can actually try and help ourselves as individuals by being better aware of the potential risk of lorries and left-hand turns. So avoid undertaking lorries. If one pulls up next to you at a junction, then move in front of the lorry and out of that danger zone. And the other thing is that although cycling infrastructure can sometimes naturally lead us up the inside, we can't automatically assume that it's safe to do so, particularly as we're approaching junctions.
Yeah, well, hopefully in time, as conditions out on the open road become safer and safer, we won't need to be quite as attuned to that particular type of risk. But in the meantime, we just need to make sure that we look after ourselves.
Yeah, do the best we can. Now, undoubtedly, there's going to be some pretty strong opinions out there. And as ever, we really want to hear your thoughts. So make sure you get involved in the comments section down below.
Now, for how to cycle more safely, how about clicking just up here? And for our commuter challenge, click just down here.
Yeah, and make sure you subscribe to GCN too. To do that, just click on the globe.